Greetings. I'm Michael Quinn Patton with a brief introduction to principles-focused evaluation. The essence of principles-focused evaluation is to examine the meaningfulness of program principles, the extent to which they're being followed or adhered to, and where following them takes you, what the results of principles adherence is. Now, typically, programs are evaluated on goal attainment, on whether or not their model is fully implemented, on whether or not it can be scaled, on whether it works or doesn't work, and what aspects work or don't work based on program outcomes. But underneath the intervention, the initiative, the program model are values and principles. And principles-focused evaluation looks at and evaluates those principles. Principles are often expressed as categories. In order to evaluate principles, we have to be able to state what they are. And that involves taking value statements, which are beliefs, things that people care about and believe are important, and turning them into behavioral statements that provide guidance. So, for example, the value of diversity. What does it mean behaviorally? What verb? Is the program going to promote diversity, support diversity, engage with diversity, ensure diversity? Those verbs will determine the criteria for judging the meaningfulness and adherence to the principles. Once stated, the principles can be examined for their meaningfulness and adherence. Often, principles are simply listed as categories, like transparency or inclusiveness, outcomes-oriented, being accountable, collaborating. We work to turn those categories into meaningful behavioral statements that actually guide behavior and therefore can be evaluated. One of the ways that you know you have a good principle is when you can express its contrary or opposite principle. So, for example, when we worked with 6 different youth homelessness programs who were delivering different services, different approaches with different target populations, they shared a set of principles like harm reduction and being trauma-informed, which contrasts with other homelessness programs for youth, which were based on a zero tolerance principle. So harm reduction means that a program will work with young people who may be using drugs or alcohol, who are engaged in angry behavior, may be acting out in some ways, working with them to reduce the harm of their behaviors, while as a zero tolerance program will not allow them into the program at all. Contrasting principles with contrasting meaningfulness and contrasting results. One of the places then where principles are quite powerful is to look across diverse programs serving different populations to see the extent to which they're operating on common principles and to evaluate the meaningfulness and adherence of those principles. Another place where principles are powerful is where people are coming together to begin an initiative, don't yet have goals or a model, but are beginning to coalesce around some shared beliefs that can be expressed as principles. So under innovative situations, under community development situations, principles can be quite powerful. In essence, principles-focused evaluation is especially appropriate for principles-based initiatives with principles-driven leaders and participants. It takes principles, takes them seriously as a source of examination, as a source of learning, as a source of knowledge. In a longer video, I'll explain how we evaluate principles and articulate them using the guide framework. But for now, this is an introduction to the notion that principles can be meaningful, can be examined for their adherence and for their results, and that's the essence of principles-focused evaluation.